Sentiment on the Canadian economy from American executives with ties to Canada has hit a new low. That's according to a new survey from the American Chamber of Commerce in Canada. For more, we're joined by David Olsen, Regional President of PNC Canada and Chair of AmCham Canada. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks, Amber. Thanks for having me.
So, Canada, we're always saying, what does everybody think of us? And in this situation, American executives who maybe run up divisional heads in this country, it seemed, sentiment's at a record low. Why is that?
So, sentiment is definitely at a record low, and there's no secret that the economy right now is really kind of teetering on the edge, and people don't know whether it's going to get much worse, if it's going to get better. So that uncertainty plays a lot into it. The other thing that we saw in the numbers is that there's a lot of legislation right now in Parliament in Canada, and there's a lot of uncertainty around that. And I think that also, contributes to the sentiment right now.
I want to pick up on that point because it seems like that was the far and away chief complaint, was the regulatory landscape in the country.
Sure. We definitely heard a loud cry around regulation and taxes being challenges for U.S. companies as they look to further invest here. I mean, as you know, U.S. companies are the largest investor in Canada, so we think it's a really important voice. I would tell you, too, that the government of Canada right now is very engaged with us. This survey certainly helps guide those conversations, but we're hearing a lot more from the government of Canada now than we have historically. And
I guess that leads me to the so what of all of this. What could come out of this? What does this mean in terms of, attracting those much needed investment dollars?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the one thing that's loud and clear in the survey is that we need more dialogue, we need more engagement. And, just even in the last month, I can think of 3 or 4 different meetings we've had in Ottawa to address really specific concerns and regulations and tax issues as well. So the engagement is there, and now it's really how we reach middle ground and common ground.
What about the labor market and the ability to find the talent that you need, hire them and retain them? I mean, one of the things that certainly has gained a lot of traction this year is when you look at productivity per worker, it certainly is low, and in many cases at multi-decade lows.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's sort of the two-edged sword for investing in Canada right now. The productivity numbers are 72% of what they are in the U.S. So that's a clear challenge for us here in Canada. On the flip side, the immigration system here is really what attracts investment. The ability to hire people, the ability to find the right talent is definitely here in Canada. So I think that's our magnet that brings investment in. And most of our companies here that are expanding in Canada are expanding just for that reason.
It's also maybe highlights the different economic position that Canada is relative to the U.S., right? Canada's in a technical recession, whereas in the U.S., I mean, goodness, it's growth. And so maybe these American executives are hearing, oh, wow, things seem a lot better. Like, I'm wondering, is a kind of relative situation a factor here?
Yeah, there's definitely a relative situation for sure. And the other thing, I sort of joke about this, but it did come out during budget season. So as an executive who's putting together the budget, you tend to be less optimistic than you are after the budget is baked. So I think there's a little bit of that going into it. But certainly, the economy is really active right now in the U.S. But there's also a lot of uncertainty there. I think a lot of folks feel like there's likely a recession. I mean, the PNC economists would tell us that late first, early second quarter, we were expecting a recession in the U.S., a mild one, but still a recession. So I think there's uncertainty there, but I think the uncertainty is probably more clear here in Canada right now.
You mentioned government and budgets. Next week, we get that fall fiscal update by the federal government. With these conversations that you've been having with the government and your business community, what are some of the opportunities the government should take to try and, smooth the waters a little bit?
Smooth the waters. I think really a lot of the things don't fit as much into the budget as into like regulatory cooperation. Like there are so many places that the regulations are just slightly different in Canada versus the U.S. And is that really, necessary? And are there ways we can streamline? I mean, North America is a real powerhouse. And if you look at all things in the world right now, there's no better place to invest than North America with Canada, the US, and Mexico. So if we can break through some of those small regulatory challenges, I think that really helps clear the way for investment.
How often do businesses truthfully complain about the dual language requirement? Because it can, if you're an American company looking to expand, you don't have that in the US.
That is an interesting one. I think, companies are certainly comfortable investing in Ontario and in Canada in general, but I think there is some reticence, to deal with the French language laws in Quebec.